What's up, Wallet Monkeys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, what we're gonna talk about is, okay, you got 100,000 or more in business credit. Now what do you do? Well, the simplest thing that you could do is do nothing, right? Like there's so much economic uncertainty. And I think that just because you have that money doesn't mean you have to like rush and go use it, allocate it, spend it, whatever, right? So relax. And if you can't think of anything good, probably better to wait, sit on that, right? The good news is that you got all this business credit that's not reporting to personal, and it's there waiting for you, ready to go. Now, if we're not using it in a little while, maybe something happens with limits, but again, you get my point. In general, you're in good shape because personal is unaffected, and we've got business now built up, right? Shout out to this video sponsor, us. Yes, that's right. We recently launched our Credit Mastermind. If you want to get your first 100K in credit or your next 100K in credit, this might be the way that you can level up, right? So this is a dedicated group where that is our sole intention for the next 12 months. After that, it is all about getting new streams of revenue established. So figuring out how to get cash off those cards, turn that cash into streams of revenue, more money, and essentially collecting and acquiring assets, right? So if this is something that you want to do, this is where you want to take the game next, this might be something that you're interested in. Link right here or down in the description below. Again, that's the Credit Mastermind. Now let's get back to the video. Next easiest thing that you could focus on is hopefully you've already got some sort of hustle. You've already got some sort of business that you know that you can spend dollars on advertising, marketing, email campaigns, whatever. They come into your funnel or your sales process, and then out the other end, X amount of people buy, right? That is called a sales funnel or a sales process, right? Hopefully you've got something like that. So then you could just allocate this money to monthly ad spend. So now we can ramp up our efforts. Because again, all it takes is that first 100 or 500 people that come to page one, and then we see how many people make it out the other end and are buying our stuff. Once we got those two metrics, those KPIs, right? We can then break that down and figure out how much money we gotta put in, how much we're gonna get out. Right? And obviously it doesn't matter if you got just 2 pages, 1 page, 50, obviously the longer the funnel, the longer the amount of pages, the less people are going to make it to the end. But you could be doing campaigns where we start with an email and we end with a sale. And we can do this for products, services, online, offline, right? So hopefully you've got something like that already set up. Otherwise you're going to have to listen to what I break down with the side hustle piece. But sales and marketing, sales and marketing, sales and marketing. That's it. That's what all this boils down to at the end of the day. We got to get leads in, qualified leads, and we got to figure out a way to close them and add value to their life. They give us their money, right? This is the way the world works. So that hopefully you've got, and then you would just allocate that money into what you're already doing. You could also allocate into inventory, staffing, stuff like that you've already got. But if you have none of that, then maybe what you'd be looking at is, I know real estate's always hot, right? You'd be looking at that, right? So there's a couple different routes that we could go. First off, if you've already got an existing house and you can pull an A-lock or a HELOC out of that to help with, let's say you got 3, 4, 0% balance transfer cards, you're gonna need as much as you can, especially if this is your first, whether you're trying to do a fix and flip or a BRRRR method or a fix and rent model, you're gonna need some help. And you're probably gonna spend double what you thought you would have spent. That's just how it is, especially on your first couple, like I said, because there's still a lot you're working out. And the last thing you want is to get like 90% of the way there and have to start cutting corners on like, different little trinkets that really put the final touch and the icing on the cake for the whole house, and you got to now skimp on those areas. And then we're messing with color schemes and chrome and stainless, and right, you don't want to do that. So like I said, you want to, again, have some foresight and allocate properly. If you're like kind of putting it all together and running out of money towards the end of that project, you're in trouble, right? We want to have some buffer, we want to have some cushion there. Because what if we are renting this, what if it doesn't rent immediately? What if the home value goes down, right? And we're locked into, right now, if you're taking out loans, you're locked into higher interest rates than you would be if you just waited. So all this needs to be taken into consideration. And again, give yourself enough slack, give yourself enough runway if things do get worse. Next is let's talk about side hustles, right? Everybody's favorite. I know that what was hot in 21? Turo. I know that it's pretty hot to like get a cheap car that is like an EV car or something like really, really small to use in suburban, downtown areas. And it's cheap per month, cheap to insure, and we put graphics on every single side possible that we're gonna try and go out there and sell to other people. Maybe we rent out the car, we drive it ourselves, whatever, right? That's a pretty popular business model. Just make sure vending machines, car washes, laundromats, whatever you get into, that Is this business going to be negatively affected if the economy gets worse? Is this business going to be negatively affected if housing goes down, if rates continue to rise, right? And I've got a note on this land or whatever, right? You want to be thinking all those things through. It's kind of interesting. What I noticed with a lot of people is that they will think right up to the finish line and they never really walk through, right? They never walk through to what is life like after that thing. So do that, right? And really take some time to plan this thing out. You're not like losing anything by planning more, right? It's just going to set you up better in the long run. So on the side hustle side, there's physical and there is online, right? So we kind of covered like the hot trending topic stuff. Again, just make sure you've got runway there. Now let's cover these two pieces. What I would suggest, focus on what you already know, okay? I've got family members that have been doing the same trade for 60 years. Can you believe that? 60 freaking years. I don't think there's anyone else on the planet that has that kind of experience. So that person is a true gem. You know, that person is a true one of one, man. And we need to be pulling, knowledge out of that person and experience out of that person for the younger generations. So there's a lot of different ways we can go with this. But if you've already got experience in this skilled trade or in this niche, then you can go and see a physical business and tear it apart and dissect it in like a matter of minutes, right? So maybe you're seeing something that they're not. And again, we're going to talk about financing and how to buy that in just a second, but maybe you're seeing something that they're not, or maybe after 30, 40 years passing it down from generation to generation, their kids don't want it and they're just burned out, right? That deal happens Monday through Friday. Trust me when I say that the easiest deal you're ever going to make is a business that you already go to, a business that you like, that they're just burned out and the kids don't want nothing to do with it. I don't know what's up with this younger generation, but they don't want to work hard, or I don't know, right? They want to build their own, start from scratch, whatever it is. There's that deal Monday through Friday, every day of the week. That's popping off. Online is the same thing. It's like, okay, well, if I've got all these skills, then how hard is it really for me to start a YouTube channel? How hard is it really for me to put up a website? How hard is it for me to set up a landing page, right? And again, we're testing this out. We're driving traffic. Let me bring this home for just a second and point out what we could do, right? We're not doing this currently, by the way. Wallet Monkey. Well, we've got a funnel that we know now converts for the Credit Mastermind. So what we could do is we could change that slightly and we could figure out ways to put something in front of it so that we can get on all advertising platforms, because when you advertise money like that, you can't get on every single platform, but we could probably get on a couple, or we could come in front of that and do some sort of opt-in offer where it's like super valuable, juicy stuff for name and email. And then on the thank you page or an email follow-up sequence, send them to the mastermind page to convert. And then once we sent through 100 or whatever, as soon as we get that first conversion, then we know our KPIs and we can start to reverse engineer to, figure out how much more traffic can we push through. Rule of thumb, try and make it 2x or 2 times the amount that it costs to get the customer and to fulfill the offer, whatever that is, right? But anyways, if you've already got these skills on a physical side and on a digital side, there's a play there. And we can go to, there's sites that actually list and broker physical businesses, and there's sites that list and broker online sites. We showed you one of these before, it's called Flippa. So you've got options either way. And your best option and your best deal, I'd say 100% of the time, is gonna be seller finance. And that is like just a creative way where as long as you figure out what they want and you actually communicate, that talking thing with people, then you're gonna probably get a better deal. What I mean is a lot of times, like, okay, let's say they put up this business for $1 million. Well, it's funny enough, maybe they're okay with 100,000 and then you just pay them out every single year. Or maybe they're okay with a deal that looks completely different than $1 million out of your pocket on the table right now. Because who wants to do that? Even if you had the money, would you really want to do that? No. Okay, so we need to maximize our dollars here. So what I would suggest is, seller finance or getting creative in some sort of way. We're gonna only figure that out though by talking to them and figuring out what they actually want. Like I said, a lot of times what you're gonna find, the kids don't want it, they're burnt out, they don't know what to do with it. So the deal's on the table, man. There's so much wiggle room there and there's so much room for a creative solution. That's what I would suggest there, right? The other things I want to cover and talk about is just kind of like icing on the cake. This is stuff to make you feel good. This is stuff to make you feel secure at home, and feel diversified out. Now, I would also suggest that you don't go and use 0% credit cards to max them out and buy this stuff, because then you got the stuff. And if it doesn't perform and cover the cost of the interest when it goes from 0% to you actually got to pay it, whatever, you're trapping yourself into a corner. If you don't think you can pay it off, or you don't plan on paying it off, then you don't want to do this. And if you think you can pay it off, this might be up your alley, but we need to start bringing in some diversification pieces. And it starts with the simplest thing, is we need to set up an entity. Now, in the beginning, and I know people who still operate multi-million-dollar businesses and they don't have some big elaborate entity structuring. If you're in the Discord, a couple of us in there do have more elaborate setups, right? To where there's pass-through companies and IP is owned by one LLC and then everything gets fed up to a trust, and that's how we take out money. You don't need that out of the gates. I would suggest though, you gotta get an LLC at some point. That's like 150 bucks, usually, depending on what state you do it in. Again, you're gonna wanna talk to the professionals, not me, and figure all that out for yourself. But an entity, we gotta get pretty quick, because then we need to start building business credit on that. Second thing is some sort of estate plan. This is also called a will. We need to have a next of kin. We need to have a structure in order to how things would operate if, God forbid, something were to occur to me. Once we got that in place, then we can start looking at other things like, do you have a 401k? Do you have an IRA? You know, you can throw in 6,000 to 7,000 into a Roth IRA per year, depending on your age. We need to start looking at those things, right? Commodities, metals, how many do you have on you? How much do you have stored at other locations worldwide? Things like that, right? Cryptocurrency you could look at. Now, again, I have to caveat this once again, is because I know a ton of people who went out and got a lot of credit right before the run up in 2021, and then they maxed out their cards on crypto, and now they're in really rough shape because you know, crypto's gone down like 90% and they're still paying it every month. And so it obviously hasn't outperformed the 20% plus APR that you're paying every single month. Yikes, that gets rough. And like I always say, you don't want to be trapped to where you've got to sell at the bottom. Let everyone else sell at the bottom. That is not for us. That is not for this community. That's not for this channel and what we're teaching, right? You want to be accumulating at the bottom. So going back to the beginning, like I said, you could just be waiting on cash right now and starting to make semi-disrespectful offers to people, waiting how the beginning of 2023 operates, or you could start to diversify out. Like I said, we've got Roths, IRA, vehicles that we could start to do. We've got an I-bond vehicle that we could look at, bond laddering. There's a lot there that you could start to do. Just make sure, like I said, if it's on a 0% card, you've got a plan to pay that off before that, or don't even do it, right? Use profits and then get into those things, profits from the business. But anyways, that is what I got for you. I'd love to hear what your plan would be. I'd love to hear what you're gonna do. There's a ton of you in the community now that either have achieved this goal or are rapidly on your way to this goal. So let's talk about the plan now. What does the future look like? Share with me in the comments below. That's it for this video. Thanks, see ya. Hey, you should subscribe. 60% of you are not subscribed yet, right there. Okay, bye.